Welcome to the Modern Arizona podcast. Today's podcast is a little different. It's from one of our live events with the Modern Divorce Navigator, designed to make divorce less stressful and more manageable. If you enjoy the podcast, don't forget to subscribe. And if you're curious about the Navigator, check out the link in the description. We would love to have you join us. Now let's dive back into the episode. Welcome, everybody, to our Friday morning live event guest series. Today's topic, live in the Modern Divorce Support Group, it's going to be talking about navigating relationships and specifically breakups. Here today with another family law attorney from Modern Law, Tracy Wood, who also happens to be a whole lot of things, including a life coach and relationship breakup specialist person.
Well, I'm an expert in breakups. Thank you.
You're an expert in breakups.
Yeah, on a personal level, I'm an expert in breakups. Yes.
All right. Well, good. Let's dive into it. What do you see as like the biggest thing that makes people stuck in their relationships?
In the breakup, in the after, or in the relationship itself?
Usually, let's talk about like leading up. You know, you're stuck in a relationship. It's not going well. You want to make it better. You don't want to get out.
Well, it's interesting because I did just wrap up season 8 of my own podcast. It's called Rock That Relationship. And the reason we started it was to talk about all of the stuff, right? That you shouldn't be stuck, that you should be thriving, or you shouldn't be in the relationship. And now I get it. It's more complicated when you have children, you own property together, and all the things that we deal with as divorce attorneys. But it's that lack of communication, lack of understanding if you're on the same page. I do believe that therapy or some kind of self-work is really helpful to the relationship, to yourself, but to the relationship as well, right? So you can't be a good partner in a relationship if you don't know yourself. And I think one of the interesting things is we're never taught this. This is not something that we're taught as kids. Like what do we go to school for? Math, science, things like that. We leave out the most important thing is the relationship and relationships and how do we relate to the people around us. And so I feel like so many people are stuck and it's nothing to be ashamed about or embarrassed about or whatever. It's like,
No,
how
I
do you
lost
fix
you,
it?
Tracy.
And do you want to fix it? Right?
I lost the last like 20 seconds. Will you say that again?
Oh my God, what did I say? Like, do you want to fix it? Number one, we're not taught to really understand relationships, and we're not taught to understand relationship dynamics. And I am a perpetrator of that, of having childhood trauma, never dealing with it and not understanding it in my own relationship and making a relationship that really was like a roller coaster for pretty much every single one that I had. And it wasn't until I went to therapy and really understood what was going on and understood myself, even though I was married to a therapist. But that, when you're married to a therapist, that person can't be your therapist. And you have like a block, like I had a block, like
Sure.
that
Don't
person.
try to shrink me.
Exactly. Even though
I
you
don't
really
want you to
helped
do
me,
that.
I'm not going to listen to you. And then I'm going to have a fit and storm off and scream and cry. And now I'm a completely different person, but only starting when I was 47 years old. And so, I'm 54 now. And so it's been a huge transition and I'm the happiest that I've ever been. I am friends with several exes. That can happen. I think it is different, depending on the dynamics of what you're in, but the getting stuck, you're stuck because you're choosing to be stuck. And I don't mean that to say that in a harsh way, but you have to start. You can start super small. There's so many podcasts that are free. So if you can't afford therapy and the desire to communicate, and you have to be with another person. If a relationship's going to be working, both people have to be involved and committed to working on it.
One thing I've often wanted to ask you, you were married and you were the primary parent to your stepchildren, which is an extremely difficult place to be in. It typically causes a lot of conflict in relationships because of either the other biological parent or, you being responsible for the day-to-day and their biological mother having a lot of opinions about how you're doing it wrong. Like, did you find that caused conflict?
Yeah, so I wouldn't say I was the primary parent, and she would murder us both if she heard that. She would be really mad.
Okay.
And she's a great mother, right? And her ex-husband lived in Europe. And so we were the primary parents, and then the kids would see their father 4 times a year. So we had all of the bulk of everything, right? The school, the social, everything. Like everything that causes conflict is what we had to do. And so, yes, it was a very fine line to walk. And I was not at all ready for what I went into. And that was a big problem, right? I didn't prepare myself to understand what those dynamics were about, what kids were about, nothing. And I did so much reading and trying to figure that out about, number one, how to deal with the kids, but then how to deal with that relationship. And I've seen it now with my clients as well. They're moving from one relationship to another, and now you've introduced a new person, and that makes it very complicated. And the step parent thing, I mean, and there's hardly any literature out there. The stuff I was reading, I think, was from the 70s, and it said there's a 75% divorce rate when you're second marriage and involving the kids from the prior marriage.
It makes sense because it's just a massive, massive stressor. And I feel like many times the step parents feel like, and maybe are, just set up to fail. Have you been able to continue a relationship with those stepchildren?
I haven't, unfortunately. So for 10 months after our divorce, we were getting along. And I was co-parenting, everything was fine. And I happened to move 9 minutes away from them. But then another person came into the picture and I was booted out. And a lot of things were said about why that was the case. I don't believe them, just because, you know, we did co-parent for 10 months. I did contemplate step-parent visitation suit and decided ultimately not to do it because the kids were teens and dragging them through court and all that. And now doing this work, I actually it validates my choices. And I did have to go through a lot of therapy to like not hold on to the fact that I don't see them anymore. And they, you know, I was with them for 8 years, but I'm also Buddhist. And so there's all that of like attachment and, you know, things will happen the way they're meant to happen, but it's very painful. And it's a real risk. And I don't want to be Debbie Downer about becoming a step parent, because you put a lot of yourself, and I'm sure the same is for being a biological parent, because there's no assurances of what's going to happen with your kids, right? But with a step parent, you generally don't have any rights. And even if you do have the rights, to enforce them is very difficult. And, you know, like I thought, okay, not only my ex-wife, but her husband, and then the kids. And it's better if I just come, for me to just, okay, let them work on what they need to work on. And if things should happen in the future, great. So you're in a really vulnerable position as a step parent. And you have to be so careful. And this was saying, I saw a client recently who's like giving the step parent authority in like disciplinary ways. And I'm like, no, I was a narc. So I would narc on my kids to their mom. I narked on them. And, you know, I used to be a cop, so I was so good at seeing, like, I know what's going on here and catch them, right? And then I say, I'm reporting you to your mom. Ooh. Right? So it's never my place to discipline or, set up consequences. And I think that's really important that people need to remember that, like, because that's where a lot of that friction comes in. And, you know, naturally when you get, you know, kids move into your house or you move into their house, you're going to be there a lot when you're the step parent, right? And so now you're like, what are these kids doing? I can't just let them run all over me or talk to me in a crappy way. So you have to set up your boundaries, but then you need to work out, okay, well, how far can I go? And what do I need to, what's the domain of the parent, the biological parent?
Sure. So do you feel like, I feel like it would be important as a step parent to be able to have some immediate resolution to the problem. So something like you need to go to your room for a few minutes or something to like handle the situation immediately. But any like longer term consequence would need to kind of come from the other parent. Is that a good rule of thumb?
Yes, I think so. And to talk to that other parent about it first, like what can I do? And that was an issue when they were very young. They were very angry about their parents being divorced, and both started to take it out on me. And I had to talk to both of them and like say, like, I'm so sorry. Like, I'm so sorry that your parents got divorced. But me being here, I wasn't the cause of the divorce. And me going away isn't going to get them back together. And so you can hate my guts. You can take it out on me. But I'm not going away. And then we're just going to be unhappy together. And so, like, I set up that boundary. And also when I moved in, I didn't touch them. I didn't do anything. Like, oh, give me a hug, little kids. They were like 3 and 6. Let them come to me, right? Like, don't try to be that. You can't be for them what they already have, which is parents, right? And even if their parents are deceased or in jail or something else, like, you're not ever going to be that replacement unless they so choose that. And so I feel like you really have to be so careful about let them come to you, you know, and never be like a secret keeper or something like that. Not in that way of like, okay, well, I'll get this kid to like me by, doing secrets behind the mom's back or something, you know what I mean? Or be like, you can be a safe place, but when they do, yeah, I can say, you got to go to your room, or we're done here. Or, I'm going to talk to your mom when your mom gets home. But never being the one who decides. And also, yeah, you have to set up your own boundaries. Like, this is what I'm willing to put up with, and this is what I'm not. And I understand where you're coming from. I understand your anger. And that's something I think people discount is like, there is so much hurt. It's children are in love with their parents, right? And when we break up and we're no longer in love with that person that we were so in love with, it hurts. It really hurts. And it really hurts for those kids. And now they're like, I love both of these people. Like, I'm in love with this person that I want to be with all the time. And now I have to be here and there.
Yeah.
And now here's somebody else coming.
Right.
It's so confusing for them. So I feel like, again, I'm like a big pusher of therapy. Like, to blend a family is so hard. And you see the famous examples and they're like, oh, we just did it. But most of them are super wealthy. And I guarantee there was therapy involved.
Well, I feel like also the conversation that you had with the kids, the very real conversation of, I totally understand that you're very angry that your parents broke up. And I understand that it would be very easy to like push all that towards me, but like me leaving wouldn't change anything, or I wasn't the cause. I feel like that's a kind of a really important conversation that I've never really thought about before.
Well, I think and I talk to kids, except for babies. I am one of those baby talk people. Like, if you give me the baby, I'll goo goo gaga at it. But with kids, you have to talk to them like they're adults. Not inappropriate subject matter, but here straight up, this is what you're in a rage about.
Yeah, radical candor, like really speaking the truth that they're feeling, because there's so much relief in that, right? When somebody finally says what you're experiencing and you finally get to feel understood, that's really therapeutic. It's
right?
Really helpful. Yeah, you feel so validated,
I think that's what with our clients as well. Like, so I'm different probably from a lot of attorneys in that I do a lot of that seeing and validating, and it really helps, especially with very intractable cases. People want to be heard and seen, and so do children are people. And I don't know, it seemed like it froze. I don't know if you heard me, but I literally talk to kids as if they're like they understand adult subject matter, because they do. They understand it in their way, right? Like, right. And our daughter was so mad at her brother for so long. And at one point we got her like a sketchbook, and like she drew a picture of him and then colored him out in black. And then that allowed us to talk to her. It's not his fault. He is not the cause of this, right? Where is your real anger? And it's okay to be angry at your father and still love him. It's okay to be angry at your mother and still love her. It's okay to like me, to love me, and I'm not a replacement. Like, you can have more people.
Tracy, we have some questions from people in the divorce support group that I want to ask you. My ex and I broke up 3 months ago, but they keep texting me every time something reminds them of our relationship. It's making it really hard for me to move on. How do I set boundaries without escalating things or causing a conflict?
Are they talking about the kids texting him or the ex? Oh, the ex is probably texting, right?
Ex, yeah.
Yeah, that's really hard.
Like, I heard this song, or I went to our restaurant, or remember that time, that's what she's getting or he's getting. I'm not sure.
I know that's so painful. That's a really painful part of breaking up. And you have to decide what can I take? Some people want to know that person's thinking of them, right? We all know that even when we break up and somebody moves on immediately with somebody else, they're still thinking of you. Nobody's that, there are serial killers out there, but like most people aren't that callous, right? Like, So you have to decide if it's too painful for you, will it help you to move on to say, please only communicate with me about these things? I mean, as when we're doing our legal work, I get a lot of people to use that Our Family Wizard app, or there's another app called App Close. So they're only talking about the kid stuff. And then they know that a judge can see it and the paralegal can see it. So it takes that out. So if you don't want that, but are you prepared? That person is probably still thinking of you. So if that matters to you, you can say, okay, well, I know this person, but I need this to move on. And I think, I only learned to set boundaries last year. Like, I was not big into boundaries. I felt like it was too rigid and strict. But having boundaries I'm the happiest I've ever been in my life. And it's because I have boundaries, because I'm only willing to tolerate, what makes me feel better. And so if something makes you feel not good or worse, set your boundary. Tell that person, I love you. I'm sorry that things didn't work out. I think it's better if we just, we don't do this to each other.
Okay, so that's how you would set the boundary. You would just say that.
Say it. All you can do is say it, right?
And then
does that person
happens?
Respect your boundary?
Yeah,
right?
Let's say they don't.
Yeah, are you a blocker?
Then what?
I don't block people. I'm not into blocking.
You're not a blocker?
No, but I listen to what the other person has to say, right? So if they say, like, I don't want you reaching out, and that was the thing, like my own sister told me she felt like I didn't try hard enough with the stepkids. And I said, my ex-wife set a boundary. She was very clear. And unless I went to the court system, I can't, she's saying she doesn't want me to talk to them. She's saying, so I have to respect that. And that's when then you have to turn around and do your own internal work, right?
It's really, really, really hard, because I would have thought that the ideal situation, if you're breaking up with somebody and you've had a relationship with their kids for 8 years and they're teenagers, I would have thought that the ideal situation would have been to maintain some sort of direct relationship with the kids, being able to text them, being able to say, hey, do you want to do coffee this week? Or allow them to reach out and say, hey, I'd really love to see you for coffee. But
I tried for a long time. I mean, I sent them a message at each holiday, birthday, and I was told later I was blocked. So I was blocked. And so that's when I just, in my therapy, said, like, it's not healthy for me to continue, right? And so if it's not healthy for you to receive that information, you have to do what you have to do to stop it. And like, for me to continue. So like, when I meet people now and they say, oh, that's so sad that you don't talk to the kids, they'll come and talk to you when they're older. I'm like, I'm not betting on that. Like, my happiness does not depend on that. Like, we spend time together and now we didn't. And like, that's, I mean, again, the Buddhist stuff, it's like also with death, right? Okay, you were here, now you're not. This is part of our living. It's the part of living that at some point you you have to let go or set up your boundaries with certain people. And this is, if we do this in our work all the time, bullies, people are going to bully. If you let them bully you, they'll bully you. If you stop, it changes the tenor completely, absent complete and utter psychos, because we know there are those out there too.
I want to get to some of these other questions too. I initiated the breakup with my girlfriend, but now, because she was emotionally unavailable, but now I'm questioning my decisions. How can I tell the difference between my regret and genuine feelings of wanting to reconcile? I'm not sure whether or not I should give her another chance to get back together. She seems like she's more willing to be emotionally available now.
Can you hear me? I didn't hear that last part. She seems like she's what?
More emotionally available now.
I mean, on our podcast, it's me and my co-host, Corey. And Corey said, like, done. When you're done, you're done. I would try 800 times. I would try to the end of the earth. If I feel like anything is left undone, I still want to try. But that's personal, right? Like,
sure.
Why not? Here's the thing that you can't do is listen to other people, because everybody will have an opinion. No, don't try. Don't. When it's done, it's done. It's up to you. Like, do you want to? Like, I can't live with regret. I do not live with regret. I choose to never live with regret. So I do everything within my power that's not abusive, that's not, violating other people's boundaries, to try and make stuff work out. And when it doesn't, that's when I let go.
Love it.
Not
Love
easy.
It. Next question. My ex and I still have mutual friends. I feel like I'm always hearing about what it is they're doing, who it is they're dating, who they went out with, which restaurant they went to. How do I navigate this without isolating myself from my friends? I feel like I'm bound to lose my friends simply because my ex and I broke up.
That's interesting. I get that because I get a lot of that stuff, right? You have to set your boundaries with your friends in a nice way and just say, I want to. And here's the thing. I think people are so afraid to just have these conversations with people, but I think the other people want the conversation too. Say, hey, I know this is awkward. So-and-so and I broke up. I want to maintain this friendship with you. If you want to stay friends with that person, great. I have no problem with that. But right now in our lives, we need to keep separate. And I really can't hear, I can't hear updates. It's too upsetting. I mean, I've been put into total tailspins over updates about people. I mean, I've lost my mind, right? Like I've gone crazy. And then I've had to tell people, I can't, please don't. People were screenshotting me so much and sending it to me. And I said, I would text them back and say, I can't. And there was a time where I couldn't hear anything. And now I can hear things. And I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
So you had this mutual friend group. Have you been able to maintain those relationships? And has your ex also been able to maintain those relationships?
Well, so I have like a lot. Well, I have like 12, let's say 12 exes. So it's all different. Well, thank you. Maybe there's 8. I don't know, 8 to 12. It depends on the group, right? So it depends on those particular people, and they're all different. I think I have 78 Facebook friends in common with my ex-wife. But we don't, and we live 9 minutes away from each other. In 3 years, we've never seen each other. It's weird. Like we go to the same stores and everything. But with the friends, I did say, please stop, screenshotting me stuff. And then they'll ask, do you want me to? And now some will ask and I'll say, okay, fine.
What's the gossip?
Yeah. And then I don't do anything about it, right? Because I'm not supposed to. And at this point, if they want to come talk to me, they can. I mean, I'm here. I haven't moved. I'm very public. And I think you have to talk to each friend because each person's going to handle it differently. And some people can't deal. But I think all people want to be talked to. And again, it's like that validating that they're in the friends are in a really awkward position too, right?
Sure.
And they don't know what to do. And they don't know what you want. And I think if you just tell them, don't be afraid to tell people, right? Just speak up.
Yeah. Friends experience the same sort of loyalty bind that kids do.
Yeah.
Of course, it's on a different scale, but it's still a loyalty bind.
Yeah. What if you were doing couples? I've never been this person where couples go on vacations together.
Yeah.
And then one couple breaks up. And so now you're like, oh my God, what do we do? And I would just talk to both people and say, what is it that you'd like? But I do tell, I have my most recent ex, I had introduced her to a lot of my friends. And I told all the friends, I don't care that you hang out with her. It's fine with me. But if she starts dating, I don't want to hear about it. Don't want to know.
Time for a couple more questions. I've started dating and I've recently divorced, but I keep comparing everyone I meet to my ex-husband.
Yeah.
How do I break this cycle and be open to new connections and not immediately read into things they do by applying characteristics of my ex-husband?
That's a lot of work. That's a lot of work. You go to therapy, you listen to all the podcasts. There's Coach Dorothy's Breakup podcast. She's, I love her. She was very helpful to me. You can't. Each person is separate, right? And it's not fair to the new person. And it's my personal opinion that if you're doing that, maybe you're not ready to move on. And there's Coach Kendra. She does breakup coaching. She is great. And she's about the 30-day no contact. So you just go 30 days, no contact. I never was a huge fan of that. It was not, easy for me to do. But then you can decide after that how you're feeling. But I do feel like if you're still engaging in that behavior, you're not done. And that's the other thing. People are so pushy about dating. Oh, you should date. You should date. Oh, you're divorced now? I've got somebody for you to date. Don't do anything until you're ready. And you don't know if you're ready until you actually are by yourself and look at yourself, And I'm not saying everybody's got to be single. I've only been single now at 54 since I was 21 years old, right? I'm a serial monogamous in relationship after relationship after relationship.
Yeah.
And I won't do that. Now I'm done. I just don't want to do that. And so it is my God, it's going to be so scary to be alone. But actually in the end, if you do the work and you listen to all these podcasts, you get the resources, you do that, I guarantee you it, you actually find more peace. And then you can go forward where you're not doing that. And you're not accepting things you don't want. There's a reason you and your ex broke up, right?
Mm-hmm. it seems like people, humans maybe, are more comfortable in relationships than they are alone. And most people get remarried within, I don't know what the stat is, but it's very quickly.
Yeah.
People statistically get married very quickly. I think it's within 2 years, but I should verify that.
Because that feels,
It just feels normal. Like it doesn't feel normal not to be in some sort of partnership, maybe. Or maybe people feel desperate, or maybe people need the financial support. But what tips do you have to help people feel comfortable being alone when it feels so foreign?
well, I mean, I'm that person, right? And so now I'm 54. I've been single since May. It's now December, so that's 7 months. Um, I I do the work. I listen to all the books, the podcasts. Every day I'm doing something on myself, and I'm looking around at my life and I'm saying, what is it that I actually want? And am I happy? And how do I make myself happy? And here's like, it just occurred to me the other day, oh my God, like it's me. I have to support myself for the rest of my life. Like nobody, there's no, and then you look back at your parents and you're like, my God, these poor people had to support all these children. How did they do it? Like, I don't know how they did it. And like, no one is coming to save me. And we're not in the model anymore of what I grew up in is the father works in the mother's home. And then, my parents had difficulty. So my mom started working. But like, I actually now, like, I'm proud of myself. I'm proud of what I've done in my home that I bought from my ex-wife, that I've remodeled it the way I want it, that I have jobs that I like, that I'm pursuing the things that like make me happy. And I'll tell you, there comes like a happiness and peace in being able to do whatever you want. And I was watching Holiday in the Wild the other day with Rob Lowe and Charlotte from Sex and the City. Have you seen it? They go to Zambia or something. I've been meaning to go back to Kenya for a while, and I just got on my computer and booked a trip for April, and now I'm climbing Kilimanjaro in April, and I'm like, whatever. I didn't have to ask anybody. And like, people think, oh, it's so scary to travel alone, but I travel alone all the time, and usually where I go is to like, I go to a sanctuary and do the work there. And so you're in a group and you meet people. And yes, people come as couples, and you can look at that and say, oh gosh, they're in a couplehood, and wouldn't that be so wonderful for them? But you have no idea, as we all know, what is going on behind closed doors and whether they're truly happy. And maybe they are, and that I'm so happy for them. But like, I know now I will never be unhappy in a relationship again, because I'll only allow myself, now that I've found true happiness with myself, I will only allow myself to be in a relationship where I am happy.
Okay, well, my last question is, do you think it's going to be harder now to get into a healthy relationship because you've become so happy on your own?
I know, right? That freaks people out too.
Right. That's why I'm asking.
And the thing is, the more that you do the therapy and the processing, and then you sort of drift away from a lot of people, but then you find the people that you vibe with. And I do believe that like you will find, either in the friendships or romantic relationship or whatever, only be with those people who make you feel better.
Okay,
than you
I know
feel
we're
by
out of
yourself.
time, but I want to ask about this because I'm not single, but I want to have better friendships. I want to be able to find my people, and I don't know how to do that. With being where I'm at, with 4 kids and lots of jobs and people going everywhere and lots of stuff, like it feels like A, there's no time, and B, like, how do I find my people? As you
Well,
get
I mean,
older, you feel like you're so different and you know yourself so well, and you're like, nobody's like me.
right. Well, and you're a badass, right? You own a business, right? I mean, I work for you. Just
Let's
full
not make it
disclosure,
about me,
everybody.
but
I'm her employee. I'm her employee. I mean, that's the thing. I don't have the balls to be a boss, right? Or to go out on my own. So you have to look at yourself. Where are you, right? You want to be around other people like really doing stuff, right? Or people that you find interesting, or people that you're vibing with. So you have such limited time. And I do believe when you're in certain stages of life, you have to say, this is my stage right now. It's not that you don't want to have friends. It's that you really don't have the time, or you find those friends where you are, or you say to your family, I have to prioritize 1 hour of my week or one night of my week. I have to do it for me, right? It's like what's that called? Like taking a bath. It's soothing. It's doing
Self-care.
something. Yeah, self-care. Self-care for you
How do
could
you find your people?
well, I'm going through this right now because I'm in a transition. For a long time, so I had different groups: vegan group, lesbian group, pickleball group, and then I've never really been close to attorneys. I've dated a couple, but like the community rubbed me the
Right.
wrong way. And so
Yeah.
then I'm like, oh my God, all I do is talk to clients all day, and then what am I doing? So I started playing more pickleball at night. But then I was like, well, I'm 54. Everyone that I'm playing with is hyper competitive and doing, tournaments. And then I'm like, do I really have the time for tournaments? So then I just joined a writing. So I started a writing class in January. I'm taking these tours, and the tours that I do, the travel tours, are where you work and you start on a weekday with the whole group of volunteers. So I have so many friends from around the world. And then I have to tell myself, okay, just because I'm sitting at home by myself, but I'm communicating with a friend in Spain, I'm communicating with a friend in India. So it's like you change your perspective of what it means to be having relationships, right? So maybe you just have time for like this. I mean, you could do this with a friend. Like you pick the people who make you feel better. That's what people don't understand. Like I do not waste my time anymore with people who make me feel worse. I can't. It's not worth your time. And like, who are the people who are going to lift you up, say, hey, look at what a great job you're doing, right? And not be jealous, right? I'm sure there's a lot of people who might be jealous of what you're doing. God, we've frozen again. Can you hear me? Right? People are probably jealous.
Can hear you now.
People are probably
Uh-oh.
jealous. And it's hard to find that, right? And it's hard to vibe probably with people at the kids' activities and stuff like that. I mean, I used to hang out with people when I was the stepmother going to all these, soccer practices and stuff. And I'd try to find people to fit in with. And it's like, hi, I'm the lesbian stepmother from not from the South,
You're like, how do I find my people? Any other lesbian stepmoms? No.
Right, exactly. So then I click with somebody on, they're into whatever thing I'm into. But it's like,
Sure.
you're
Yeah.
limited in time. So your best bet is probably like an online fun group or support group or,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm
Yeah.
Gen X, and so there's all these Gen X groups I follow on Facebook, and they just
Mm.
started a whole group called Love You Like a Sis. So it's like support for them, and they have Zooms and stuff. Yeah,
That's cool. That's
you're a
very cool.
Swiftie, right? Get in
I
with those
am.
Swifties. I mean, we
I
have
am
our
a
Slack
fool.
channels at work, the True Crime Club, the Swifties. It's like, how much time do you have though?
Right. Right.
You're a business owner, mother, stepmother, all these things.
All the
You
things.
you have a lot going on.
Mm-hmm. Should we do one more question? Because there are
Okay.
questions from the Monitor Divorce Support Group. We'll just do one more and then we'll
Okay.
wrap it up. Because I know you have places to be. My ex and I share a pet. We've been co-parenting our dog since the breakup, and it's causing a lot of tension. Do you have any tips for handling this type of situation?
Well, I have one right next to me who's my ex-girlfriend, and her ex-wife's dog lives with me now. So,
Mhm.
and my ex comes over to see him all the time, and then she watches when I have to go be out of town or whatever. So, I mean, it's the same as co-parenting kids, right? Except you're not taking them to activities, but you have to decide, like, when you're co-parenting, does that mean you just drop off and pick up? Are you going to discuss, you have to set up your boundaries. It's all about communicating. Like when I drop the dog off, I can't hear about your new girlfriend, or I can't hear, you know what I mean? I can't talk about it. Like, and then if it's going to be a problem, I mean, isn't there pet custody court or no?
My dog is like, she's got to get out. So give me a minute. Big feelings. Okay. All right. So
You know
Tracy,
what I mean?
yeah,
Right?
I do. So yeah, you can either you can decide, do we want to go to the dog park together
Or
or
just change time. Yeah. But I think
then,
it's all about communication. Everything in life is about communicating. And
yeah,
if that person will communicate.
totally. And then you've got like, if the dog has special vet issues or cost issues, then you have to talk about those.
Yeah.
Who's paying for this? Like, or the dog has a follow-up appointment and I can't make it. Can you take them? Like that's the same
the same
conversation
as
we're having
kids.
about kids. Yeah.
Exactly. Who's going to bear the costs and all of that? And so while I have the one living with me, my ex pays for his food and his stuff like that. It's just because, yeah, he stayed with me when she moved out because he was used to living with other dogs and he would have been by himself. And she was, working a lot. So it's just communicating. And like you got to talk about everything. And I think that's the thing that people need to stop. They need to start like being less uncomfortable with. Like, it's okay to talk. It's okay to express your feelings. It's okay to say, this is what works for me. And hopefully that other person is receptive.
Tracy, thank you so much for taking time out of your very busy day to do this guest live podcast in the Modern Divorce Support Group. We have lots of people, lots of questions. They've really enjoyed it. And I've enjoyed chatting with you as always. And we'll see you soon.
Okay, thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks so much for listening to the Modern Arizona podcast. If you've enjoyed what you've heard today, make sure to download it, like it, leave a review, and share it with your friends. If you know someone who would be a good guest or you would like to be on the Modern Arizona podcast, make sure to give us an email or reach out to us at mymodernlaw.com.